Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be going over my Houston Open PGA picks for this week, my favorite plays that I like on both sites. So, pre-pandemic, or during the pandemic, when all the sports were shut down, I was making some videos. Golf was one of the first sports back, so I made some videos for golf. Had some fun with it, and once baseball and basketball resumed, didn't have time to make golf videos, but now that just football is the main priority, I might bring them back if you guys want. So let's get started. As always, appreciate if you guys hit the like button on the video, subscribe if you have not already. The last couple of weeks of PGA have been profitable, especially 2 weeks ago. Last week was good as well. Just wasn't as fun to track because no shot tracker, but back to shot tracker this week, and then next week we got the big boy Augusta. So got a lot of money to be made potentially. Let's get started with some of my favorite plays. So this week in Houston, last year winner at Houston was Lanto Griffin. That field last season was much weaker than it is this year. This year we have some of the top golfers in the world with Dustin Johnson, Tyrrell Hatton, Brooks Koepka. When he's healthy, he is a top player. You have Tony Finau in here, Scotty Scheffler, decent play. So it's a lot tougher than it is last year in terms of field. But there is a lot of par fives and birdies to be had. It's not a big course at all. So it's not just one where bombers will have success. If you look at last year, you saw a lot of guys that have good irons and guys that are good putters played well here and scored high. Like Denny McCarthy had a top 10 last year here. But just be going by price tag in this video, Dustin Johnson at 11.5 on Draftkings, 12-2 on Fanduel. I think he is still going to be in consideration for everybody. I mean, he should be, even though there are some good golfers in this field. There's not a ton of top-end golfers. He is one of the best golfers in the world. Before he had corona, before he tested positive, he was the best golfer on the planet in August and early September. He had a first, second, first, tied for sixth streak going. Actually, a second, first, tied for sixth streak going. Tied for 12th before that, 2 missed cuts, and then he had a win at Traveler. So very, very impressive run that he had been on. He had 3 wins, 2 other runner-up finishes, and then the other ones that he didn't miss the cut, he had finished in the top 15 and tied for 6th and tied for 12th. He has just been on top of the world. In golf, you want to look for guys that are hot right now, and Dustin Johnson was hot before the pandemic. Who knows if he's going to stay hot? Missing almost 2 months from golf action, but he's a guy that is pretty strong in some of these categories. Par 5 scoring, tee to green. His putter overall last season was not great, as tied for 120, but in August and September when he was on that hot streak, he was one of the best putters and he was making some pretty long putts. So Dustin Johnson is going to be in play this week. The other guy that I like above 10K is Tyrrell Hatton at 10.3 on DraftKings, 11.7 on FanDuel. He is just super strong in every single category that I'm looking at this week in par 5 scoring, strokes gained, putting, in bogey avoidance, and tee to green. Just top 50 in all of those categories, top 20 in par 5 scoring and tee to green. He's just a solid golfer. There tends to be some rounds where he kind of just falls apart. Like 2 weeks ago at the Zozo, it was round 3 where he shot a 76. He would have been in contention, but before that had a tied for 3rd. He won at BMW, missed the cut at the U.S. Open, which is nothing to fault. It's a really tough field, strong, and it's a tough course as well. But before that, he had a top 10, top 20, top 25, top 70. Just been pretty strong. And the 2 missed cuts were at the PGA Championship and U.S. Open. Other than that, he's been making all of his cuts and been able to contend in most of them. So I think he's in for another really good week this week at Houston. Russell Henley is one of the hottest players on the planet right now. He has 4 top 10s in his last 6 starts. He has a pretty nice made cut streak going as well. He is expensive though this week, 93 and 11.2. But I think he's still in consideration just because golf, you want to kind of continue to roll with the guys that are hot. He's been making a ton of birdies the last couple of weeks. It's another pretty easy course, and I think at pretty high price points, he might not get that much ownership, but I think people should consider playing Russell Henley again this week. Sungjae Im is another guy that I'm looking at a similar price tag to Russell Henley on both sides. I think I like him a similar amount, maybe a little bit more if Henley gets more ownership. I got to look into that still. But he's a guy that is pretty solid in a lot of these categories. The only thing that he struggles in is putting, which can be super frustrating if your guy misses multiple, like 5, 6 foot birdie putts. Definitely becomes frustrating, but he's been strong recently. He has made the cut in 9 of 10, at least. Going back to DraftKings last 10 appearances, he has just been able to contend in some of them. He has before the last 2 starts, he's made top 30 in the heading into 4 straight before the last 2. Struggled a bit, and that was because he had a bad round 4 last week, or 2 weeks ago at the Zozo, and then in the CJ Cup, he had a really, really bad first round and was able to bounce back and still make the weekend with a 69 in round 2. There not being a ton of strong golfers this week, not a ton of guys that you feel good about paying up for. Sunjay Im kind of makes you at least feel a bit safe. Now we're getting to some of the cheap guys that I like. Cameron Davis checks the boxes at 8,100 and 9,800. He hasn't played golf in almost a month, so another guy that could be a bit risky. People might be a little bit hesitant, but before that, before a bit of a time off for him, he was super hot and super locked in. He was playing his best golf of the year. Tied 52 the Shriners, but T6, T36, T29 inside the top 20 in the Wyndham, inside the top 15 at the 3M Open. So basically from the end of July onwards, he's been really good. He is like top 100 in all these categories that I'm looking at this week. Makes me feel strong about him. He can make you some birdies, make you some eagles on some of these par 5s potentially. So that's what I'm looking for, guys that can score high, and he's definitely fits the bill with just looking at some of his DraftKings performances recently. And now we're getting to some of the other guys like below 8K, like Denny McCarthy. I have played Denny McCarthy quite a bit because he's such a good putter. He's the best putter in the world last 2 years. So he can kind of mask some of his struggles in tee to green and some of his struggles with missing the green and with some of his iron plays with his red hot putter. But he's made some changes heading into this year in 2021. These numbers are 2020 because 2021 there's not that much of a sample size, but 2021 he has made some of his shifts with and some of his tee to green stuff. He has definitely improved that. He has 2 top 6s in his last 3 starts. His irons have really improved. Putter is still as hot as ever. And on this type of week where there's not that many top golfers to compete with, I think Denny McCarthy could make a strong run. He has 3 top 10s in his last 7 starts. So you really can count on him to make the cut. You feel good about anything, birding everything inside like 10 feet. 90% of the time he will do that. And then he can still get you those putts from over 20 feet. So McCarthy is always a strong play, especially in a weaker field event. Dylan Fratelli's been my guy for much of the year that I've been playing. He just always gets low ownership, which I like. At the Zozo, he should have been able to finish inside the top 5 with a 66 and a 65 to start his rounds. Finished out with a 70 and a 70. But he was really good with his tee to green stuff in that week. Before that, the CJ Cup was able to squeak out a made cut. Nothing really special with the T69. But he had a T34 at Shriners, T33 at the BMW, and then when he tends to make the cut, he tends to at least finish inside the top 40, which is what you kind of like, especially for a cheap guy, able to make the weekend, push for almost 100 DraftKings points, almost eclipsed that in his most recent start. Just pretty strong. His putter has been hot and cold. It's been hot recently. It was hot at the Zozo Championship. It's not like it's that tough of a field, or it's not that tough of a course this week. So hopefully you'll be able to stay hot a bit. And I think 76 and 91. I think he looks fine. Adam Schenk is the guy that's currently has the 3rd longest active cut streak in PGA. I think it's up to 11 or 12 made cuts in a row. He tends not to do too much with the made cuts, which isn't great for DraftKings scoring. You see a lot of like T20s or T30s, a couple T50s in there, T61, T41, but you're getting a guy almost 7K that is going probably he's been really good at making his cuts recently. Don't need him to go out there and score inside the top 15 for you to win. Just looking for a made cut, maybe push inside the top 30, and you'll be fine with that. His performances are pretty are pretty on par. He just doesn't take too many risks, just kind of plays his game and tries to get that paycheck. So Adam Schenk 71.87 I think is in play this week. And then these are the guys below 7K and 8,500 that I'm looking at. Austin Cook almost had a chance to win a couple weeks ago. I believe might have been the Shriners, blanking on the tournament, but lost in the playoffs to Martin Laird. Max Homa is just really cheap, 68. He's been struggling the last couple weeks. He was kind of got back on track last week, making the cut. Last week he made the cut and made some noise, nothing crazy, but I think he definitely has much more talent than to be 6,800. Mark Hubbard finished second at this event last year. He's only 6,800 on DraftKings if you need a cheap play. Patrick Rogers, another really, really strong putter. Kind of gets into trouble with some of his iron plays, but putter has been really spot on for him his entire career. And Will Gordon has some upside. He's a bit risky, but he's only 6,400. He's shown some upside, and if you need a cheap play, I think he looks good at 6,400. So that about does it for me. These are just some of the guys I'm looking at. I think for core plays, it would probably be Terrell Hatton, Cameron Davis. I'm really liking Denny McCarthy, and maybe Fratelli as a core 4. But core 3, probably Cameron Davis, Terrell Hatton, and Denny McCarthy. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and best of luck this week.